The Evening Brothers are proud to present Twinkie Talk.
Welcome to Twinkie Talk.
Oh, you're gonna start? Damn it. All right, we can do it.
Welcome to Twinkie Talk, brought to you by the Evening Brothers. I am Brother Lincoln.
I'm Brother John.
I'm Brother Preston.
Should we include, just before we get too far into this podcast and it's become a thing, should we include some sort of description about what we do? Because Twinkie Talk and Evening Brothers mean nothing to anyone.
Well, I think we talked about that that the goal is like to punish each other with bad movies and then discuss them.
Right.
I think that's
but
enough,
you didn't
right?
Say that just
well,
now.
I just did.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that counts.
The thing is, I've learned that this trope of three white men watching bad movies and then talking about them is not a it's not like a unexplored niche of the podcasting space.
Maybe that's what we should do. Is we should just call ourselves the first podcast where white men talk about movies.
I think that's
see
great.
If anyone stops us.
just boldly assert it. Like, yeah, you don't think we are? Okay.
Cool.
Great.
Well, it's your episode.
It is my episode. We're going to talk about the movie Real Steel, which was released in, I think, 2011, starring Hugh Jackman and Evangeline Lilly. It was a movie that...
Hey, hold on. Wait, was it starring Evangeline Lilly?
No, she's involved.
For like 6 minutes.
I mean, she was probably in the previews. She's like a headliner.
She wandered onto set, is I think what happened.
Well, anyways, it's a movie with very good CGI, and I will say that without a hint of irony. Like, it's quite excellent.
Yeah, no, it's really solid.
About robots boxing each other. And the very first thing I want to bring up is they reference, like, dates a lot. They talk about the fact that robot boxing got its start in 2016. This movie was released 5 years before that. So they were really, really optimistic about robot boxing really taking off in the next, 4 years.
Not only that, they were also very pessimistic about how real boxing would go.
Yeah, they're like, oh, people got so sick of real boxing so quick. You know what? I think it really was they were betting on the success of Real Steel to ignite the robot boxing revolution.
That's a conspiracy theory right there.
It worked for me. I tried to learn. I distinctly remember watching this movie and trying to learn how to make robots that would fight each other.
Yeah, it was.
Same.
I mean, it was very inspiring as a movie for all of us, I think. I remember I played the Real Steel video game that you could get on iOS.
Very good.
And I paid real money, like real human money, to buy a really good robot.
Do you happen to remember the MSRP on that particular robot?
I think it was $5.
Which at the time was a lot for you, I imagine.
That's like $1 million in app money,
and also like essentially
13-year-old Lincoln money. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Lincoln, you had us before we watched this movie, and Preston, I don't know if you did your homework, but you had us write down what we thought of this movie before watching it, like what we remember from the movie. Do you want us to touch on that now? Or do you
yeah. I'd love to hear. What was your, even if you didn't write it down, what was your current memory of it before revisiting Real Steel?
Preston, do you have it?
I mean, I definitely didn't write it down, but it was very nostalgia, robots boxing robots, and I just remember being really stoked as a kid.
So you looked at the poster. You saw the poster and you went, "What could I pretend to have remembered?"
No, I'm dead serious.
Nostalgia.
I just
robots.
Right. I just remember.
Robots,
I remember
Jackman.
this movie very fondly for boxing robots, being really stoked about boxing robots, and Hugh Jackman shadow boxing with a robot.
Oh yeah, that is a pivotal scene.
Like his little jump and swing. Like that is absolutely what I remember.
Yeah.
Okay, John.
I did write mine down. I said a heartwarming, feel-good father-son extravaganza with exciting robot boxing matches, and then which I think stands. I think that follows. But
maybe not extravaganza.
It was a sort of a sub-stravaganza, but beneath that, the next paragraph, I would love to talk to you guys about this. I wrote, I also remember having a major crush on one of the characters in this movie, but I don't know which one. And here's the fun thing is I've seen the movie now again, and I still don't know which one it was.
Is it the robot?
It might have been the robot.
How could it? I mean, I think there's one female character in the whole movie.
Okay, but here's the thing. It definitely was not Evangeline Lilly. Like, I can guarantee you that.
Was it Hugh Jackman?
Okay.
It might have been. My current running theory was at the final fight, there's, you know those, like, the sign holder ladies, the number ladies?
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
sure there's a word for them.
Yeah.
There's one of those that's dressed up like a robot, and I think that might have been her.
I remember my eye being caught by that robot costumed woman for,
Yeah.
I think she's on screen for, like, what, 10 frames?
I believe so, and those 10 frames really stuck with me. They really fueled me through my teenage years.
Wow. Okay.
Good to know.
Those are really good to know. I
So I
told you
fight.
to do that, and then I promptly did not write down my thoughts about Real Steel. But I'll tell you what I remember is
Wow.
I remember thinking it was awesome. I remember defending it to other people who said it was dumb.
Sure.
And I remember being really into that Hugh Jackman shadowboxing scene at the end. So,
Did you also try to learn how to make robots?
I was always trying to make robots when I was a kid. Like all my
Okay, so
journals as a kid are filled with robot designs.
that does make us the perfect trio for this.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
that means that absolutely none of us thought, I could learn to box. We all thought, I can make a robot that will do that for me.
I think maybe the best way to go is just I'm going to go through the notes that I made in chronological order and kind of describe my reaction. And why don't you, both of you can chime in with your own notes.
We'll kick in as we go, yeah.
Okay, so the first thing that I saw, or the first like really strong emotion I felt was worry, because the opening shots of this movie with the van driving down the highway as this song plays are like really
chord.
solid.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like it's really good camera work, and it's like a nice song, and it's like very thoughtful and kind of quiet and contemplative. And I was like, wait, is this movie like good? Are we gonna not have anything
so
to make fun of?
You were worried that you kind of sucker punched us into watching a good movie that's enjoyable.
Yeah, I was worried that I wasn't gonna make you suffer enough because I was like, this part is actually good. But the reason that it's good is because no one has spoken yet.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, a point that's gonna keep coming up as we go.
Oh, for sure. I wrote down a lot of these. I also said that the script feels like it was a first draft that someone just picked up like dusty off a desk and went, "Well, we can make that. Why not?"
Yeah, it needed a few rounds, which I think we'll get to more specific complaints as we go.
I'd love to.
The second thing I definitely saw is it's got that 2010s stank to it. It feels very much.
Please explain that.
I don't know. It's just got like the way people are dressed and the way people talk to each other is just so distinctly like mid 2010s. And it's like,
Okay.
It's supposed to take place in the future, but it is so inexorably 2011 when they made that
definitely.
movie.
They definitely put zero effort into making anything look futuristic besides the robots. Like, they slapped some fancy screens in, like, his truck and called it a day.
And it's like, yeah, basically nothing else in the world evolved. We still have got gas cars by 2027. We still are like mainly fossil fuel powered, except we have anthropomorphic, giant, completely autonomous robots
Right.
that we kill for sport in front
That
of
are
each other.
just so normal that we send them out to fight bulls, a real living animal.
And then my next note after that says, Yeehaw Musk.
Yes.
And I think
Thank
it's
you
because
for
that cowboy
thank you
man
for
looks like
just
Elon Musk.
summing that up beautifully.
Oh man. Oh, that's exactly right.
1000%.
Wow. That's really good.
But okay, well, we're about 5 minutes into the movie now, and I want to hear what everyone else has to say so far.
Oh man, nothing's gonna be better than Yeehaw.
I don't want to follow that up.
Well, I was just gonna say, a running theme. I had two running themes. One of them I'll get to later because it's maybe the biggest discovery I've ever made in my entire life. And
Oh,
the
I'm so
other,
excited. I heard about this.
the other is I'm I did some math later on because they gave us a little number num, and we can trust my math, or I can go through it if you want. But these robots conservatively weigh 1,000 pounds, right?
Okay.
So that's what we're told, is that they weigh about 1,000 pounds. Which
yeah, that checks out.
To me, feels like you wouldn't have to box with a bull. You would just have to sort of sit on it, and then you'd probably be okay.
I don't actually know how strong bulls are, but I bet we would be
Right.
surprised at how much they could actually like move with their bodies.
Right. But here's my other, and I thought about that too. This robot has a hop button, which I find incredibly strange.
That it can move 1,000 pounds directly straight up into the air.
Straight up into the air, and it like it's nothing, as if it were nothing. And that feels to me like you could play a different game, and that game is called Mario, where you just jump on a living thing and squash it to death.
Oh, speaking of squashing it to death, we see Hugh Jackman's robot lose, but was he planning on killing this bull? Like, was that what his end game was?
That's a good. I think so. He seems like he's got a dark soul.
Like we see him like punching it, and then he's like, "Finish the job." And it's like, what are you like? The bull's not gonna like get knocked out. It's a bull. Like you're gonna kill it, or it's gonna kill you. Like,
right? You tear the bull in half because you're Hugh Jackman and you have a bloodlust that cannot be cured.
I think it's really funny that he gets distracted by a hot girl. He just like turns to the side and gets distracted, and then the bull attacks him. Like, you have to literally focus for 40 more seconds. And you would be fine.
Right.
And like peripheral vision is a thing that exists. Like I feel like you would see, hey, there's this shape running towards my robot. Like
Oh, I thought you were talking about the woman. Like, hey, there's a shape.
Yeah.
There's a shape
No,
in the
like,
shape of a woman. I'll acknowledge her 40 seconds from now after I win this fight. You think she's going to lose interest?
Which will improve my chances pretty significantly, I feel.
Oh, this is a great example of the 2000 stink I was talking about with the little girl who he tries to charge $5 for a photo with the robot. And then
Sure.
the girl's dragging away the robot arm and he's like, give it back. And she
Yeah.
goes, yeah, for $5. Like, oh, got him so good.
That actually does. That's got a lot going on. So actually, I did some more math.
John, this is like uncharacteristic of you.
I got something really... Okay, so here's what you did to me, is you gave me a movie that is good enough to do math about, but not at all good enough to make me not want to do the math during the movie. So this is what you get, is when you give me that kind of movie. But, okay, so if we acknowledge that these robots are around 1,000 pounds, right? Then there were two girls, and they were lifting a fifth of that robot, right?
Because it's a whole arm.
Right. So those girls are conservatively lifting, and because the 1,000-pound robot was a later robot, which makes me think it would be a lighter robot. Yes, because assumedly it would get lighter so that it could.
I think Noisy
more
Boy is
nimble in
more
fighting.
densely packed.
I'm not talking about Noisy Boy. It was a different one.
Which one was
There
1,000
was-
pounds?
It was the Centurion one. I don't remember his
Midas?
name. Midas. Yeah, I think he was. Anyway, that's not the point. The point, Lincoln, is that these girls are lifting. These 10-year-old girls are lifting 200 pounds.
I think
Yeah, they're just, like,
lifting
casually
is a
dragging it
bold-
across.
They were dragging. You know.
Okay, then they were dragging 200 pounds. They're 10-year-olds. 10-year-olds
know,
can't drag
I'm
themselves sometimes.
I'm gonna pull I'm gonna take what I assume is gonna be Preston's position because I think he's gonna agree with me. I bet that the limbs are among the lighter portions of the robot.
That's why I'm saying
Like the heavier
conservative.
part is probably the leg and the torso. The arms are probably much lighter. The arms might
except
be
they were definitely
100
dragging a
pounds.
leg, Lincoln.
Oh, okay, a leg.
Oh
okay.
shoot!
Never mind
And
then.
those
Other
legs
way
have
around.
got jumps.
They're probably 400 pounds then.
So they're each lifting 200 pounds.
Yeah. Well, if you saw how badass her response was to Hugh Jackman, you'd understand how she was able to lift that much weight.
That was pretty sweet. I'll give you that.
And I like that Hugh Jackman, he doesn't you would think that he goes and takes the leg. No, he just lets it slide.
Yeah, that's true. He's like, oh, you got me there.
like-
Good point. Touche.
He's not like, I am 6'2". I can just wrestle this leg from your hands.
I am an adult with adult muscles and an adult body.
I know, and like presumably with how concerned he is about money, you would think that he would, you know,
He would
take
put up
it.
at least a little bit of a
Right,
fight.
exactly. Yeah.
Maybe it was more important to get away fast than it was to get the leg of that robot.
I mean,
It's possible.
Okay, the next scene that happens is that scene in the courtroom where they're like talking about this kid's future, and they establish 3 separate times that the aunt is wealthy.
Yes, they do. I noted that too.
no.
They say
no,
it the
no,
first
not-
time she goes,
not, Lincoln, not that the aunt is wealthy, that her
the aunt's husband is wealthy. Oh yeah, that is,
Yeah,
my
you're
note
right,
does say
Marvin.
aunt's husband. Marvin.
His name is Marvin.
The first thing that goes,
I can only assume that he walks around with envelopes of $50,000 in cash all the time.
Well, if you were wealthy and you could walk around with $50,000 in cash, wouldn't you?
I suppose you could.
we have her go, my husband is very wealthy. We're able to take care of him. And then it happens again. She says like almost verbatim the same thing. We're able to support Max because we're rich. And then we have Hugh Jackman take note of the watch. It's like we established for us twice, but Hugh wasn't there for those first 2 times, so he had to get one as well.
Which makes you think maybe, just maybe, they could have tightened that up just a little bit.
Maybe you think like a second round of editing would have cleared that up and said we only need one establishment because this movie is through Hugh Jackman's perspective.
They needed it to be clear, Lincoln.
Just how wealthy
Right,
Marvin
exactly.
is. Marvin, I can only assume Moneybags.
Marvin R.H. Moneybags, which is R.H. stands for rich, comma, havin', comma.
I do like, just as we start getting into the courtroom scene and all that, I like how quickly Hugh Jackman's character, which I'd love that I know Marvin's name and I don't remember what Hugh Jackman's character's name was.
I think it's Charlie because later on Evangeline Lilly says it like 16 times in the span of 1 minute.
That does sound right. Okay, so we'll say Charlie. I like how quickly Charlie is like, well, I could sell this kid like
I'll sell this kid.
instantly.
Which is kind of funny. It's the opposite of Jean Valjean which was Hugh Jackman's character in Les Mis, because he actually buys a kid in Les Mis.
He was so
That's a
upset
good point.
after selling a kid in Real Steel that he had to do Les Mis to ease his conscience.
Are you suggesting that Hugh Jackman does not quite understand what acting is? He's like, I sold a kid. Oh no.
I don't think you're so far out, because every time in this movie, Real Steel, where he is expected to act like a poor father, he does such a bad job at it. He is so bad at playing a bad father, because we all know that he is the best dad. Like, he is such
That's
a dad.
true. Well, and bad dads are such a touchy, like, you can't show a really bad dad without people being like, that guy's a bad person. Like, no for him.
It definitely has to
So
be
Hugh
like
Jackman-
a little ridiculous and like farcical, for lack of a better word. Absurd. There we go.
He's like, I'm
that's the
going to
one I
sell
wanted.
my kid.
No, we're sticking with farcical.
Farcical.
I like that.
Is it farcical like when it's so cold outside that your fart freezes in the air?
No, it's a fartsicle.
Oh, sorry, I misheard. It was the connection.
Yeah, that's okay.
Sorry, not all of us have fancy microphones.
I think it's kind of there's some poetic symmetry in the fact that he sold a quiet boy and bought a noisy boy.
He sure did. Except, okay, actually, you know what? Hey, let's get into it. This kid sucks so bad.
He is the
I would
worst.
sell this kid.
I have a note
a
about
hot
the
take.
speech that he makes towards the end of the movie. That speech he makes challenging Midas to a fight. Was it Midas? No.
No,
Zeus.
Zeus.
No, that was
Zeus.
Zeus. Yeah.
Challenging Zeus to a fight. I was like, wanted to leave the room because I was so embarrassed for him.
He's so awful. And that exact moment I wrote, I still actively dislike this kid about 60% of the time.
But he dances, John. He dances with the robot.
No, I saw that he did
The
a pre-TikTok.
dancing is fine. The dancing is fine. It's the like, hey, we're gonna defeat everybody. I'm so cool.
He does. It's that he thinks he's better than everyone.
Yeah,
and
it's
the,
like,
the problem that I have is that this movie doesn't prove him otherwise.
That's
Like, if
true.
he felt that way and then he got taken down a peg, I'd be great with it. But he doesn't.
how much I think we all have the same similar reaction to this boy. I think his name is Max. Is this
It is
because we as kids were very jealous of the fact that he got a robot and we did not get a robot?
Lincoln, look at me directly in my eyes. 100%. That's what it is. I'm still jealous.
I'm so mad that he got a robot that will pick him up and carry him around town.
I want a robot that is vaguely maybe alive, but also not so alive that I have to worry about whether or not it's going to destroy the world, you know?
That's another thing. I remember being as a kid being like, is the robot alive? And then I was realizing like this movie does have some conflicted messaging about whether or not the robot's alive.
It does. Yeah.
Which I would give it some credit for that, but I don't really know if they meant to be conflicted about it.
My theory is that there were two versions of the script. One of them it was alive and one of them it wasn't. And then they just sort of fell down some stairs and all the pages got mixed together.
Or they accidentally sent one script to the first unit director and the other one to the second unit director.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And the second unit director got the he is alive shot. So he was like filming all of the sides of the robot. And he's like, okay, focus really hard on his face. Okay, now pull to the mirror. We got to show that he's alive. We got to show that he's alive, guys.
And then the rest of the movie is like, no, he just mimics.
He just mimics. Oh, I want to just, this is a little sidebar, but as I was watching this movie, I watched it with my parents, and my mom sitting to the left of me said at about 20 minutes in the movie that she totally could tell what was going to happen.
Oh, this is, that was probably the number one thing that I kept thinking about is this movie is so predictable. This movie is so predictable. Like, the script is predictable, the movie's predictable. And I love this movie, but it is it's just...
Preston, I'll challenge you on the script being predictable, because at one point, Hugh Jackman does ask this child how he knows Japanese, and that kid does say video games. So
and you didn't see that coming?
You saw... Of all the things, you thought video games was going to be his answer to that question?
Well, look at
How do you know Japanese? They teach it in school now. How do you know Japanese?
I spent a summer in Tokyo.
How do you know Japanese? I spent a summer in Tokyo. How do you know Japanese? Video games. What? What? I would have more expected, I'm an Akira Kurosawa fan. Like, I would have expected, I'm a fan of Japanese cinema. More than
John,
I expected him to just
John,
2 words, video games.
John, remember, this is in a movie where they need to set him up as playing video games so he can control the robot.
Okay, you know what? It would have been a lot easier if they say, how are you so good at controlling a robot? And he says, video games.
I would have bought that, but how do you know Japanese video games? And then he's just like, and anyway, so I'm good at fighting real robots in the real world where we currently live.
I played a lot of video games as a child, and never once was I taught Japanese as a part of that process.
Well, you also never had the opportunity to pick up a robot from a junkyard and drive it around, so...
Yes, and we've established we're all very sad about
that. Right around that, I have a note of Hugh Jackman's character saying, I spent the money on a robot, it's gone! And I just really can picture all three of us telling somebody that exact sentence.
Also, the fact that he does that like 5 seconds before, like right in front of the kid.
That's a really good point, actually. The kid's like, I want some money, and he's like, you saw me
literally saw me pull off $5,000 and hand the rest off.
Also, they play Eminem songs throughout this movie.
Oh,
songs that were written in 2010. And it's like, there is no way that anyone is listening to this in 2027.
I thought that's what you meant when you said 2010's stank.
Now,
because there was a lot of
that's part of it too.
There.
I don't disagree with you, but I'd like to challenge you because this does take place in 2020.
No, it's 2027.
It's not 2027.
I'm pretty sure it's 27.
I'm Googling it right now. When
they say 2027.
Real Steel take place? Googling. 2020.
Really?
Yeah, and that's important. That is important for a future revelation that I have had.
That we got COVID instead of robots?
No, but we do live in the worst timeline, that's for sure.
Okay, well, all of my jokes about Eminem were based on it being in 2027. I was so
I
convinced.
still think it qualifies for 2020. That's still 10 years later. There's no way people are listening to Eminem now.
Falcon is in this movie.
Yeah, Anthony Mackie, love him.
And he says the phrase 50,000 guaranteed, winner takes all, which is just what? Which one? Is it that you
Wait,
get
hold on.
50,000 guaranteed, or is it winner takes all?
That's a really good point, actually.
And then the kid's like, "No, let's just take a smaller fight, Dad." And Hugh Jackman's like, idiot kid, let's just gamble my life savings away one more time."
But if you're gonna go out, Midas, I feel, is the coolest robot to die from.
Yeah, that's true.
I like him very much.
Next iconic Anthony Mackie quote is Midas against Noisy Boy. Noisy Boy against Midas. Which is like, again, like, yeah. You already
Man.
told us that one.
I really just I took everything he said and just went, yep, that sounds right. I think just because it's Anthony Mackie and he's great.
That's probably why they cast him in that role. Is hey, people are gonna be thinking too
got a
hard about the
charismatic voice.
script.
We have some terrible lines. Can you deliver them and make him not think about it? Yes, I can.
Yes, I just in fact can. And then we get to an actual robot fight where the movie gets awesome.
It kicks into high gear for a second.
Like every time it's just a robot match, I'm like, oh yeah, I love this movie. This is so fun.
I feel like this is such a roller coaster for me. Like I'm not sure I'm tall enough for this ride because every time a robot match starts, I go, why are there not 18 sequels to this movie? And then the robot match ends and we have to pretend that these people are humans. And I go, oh, never mind. That's why.
I'm going to go ahead and I know it's a little early in this podcast for pitching different versions of this movie, but how would you have liked to seen a faux documentary about the rise of Adam? And it's mostly fight footage with robot boxing historians doing talking heads in between.
Hell, we could cut this movie into
Absolutely
that currently.
And it's 40 minutes long and it is 100% better.
Yes, absolutely. Just cut all of it out. Actually, you know what? You don't even have to cut all that much out. Just rearrange and put a weird filter over the scenes where they're going to collect all the atom parts.
You just do a freeze frame and a Ken Burns slide.
You don't even have to do that. You could just put in text and a little subtext in the bottom corner, and it just says recreation of actual events, and then I would buy it.
They're reenacting the story according to their best idea of what happened. I love that. That's why the dialogue's so clunky. It's because it's just they're making it up.
100%.
I love that. The next note I have says, I love watching robot boxing and I am so sad it's not real.
I can't. Okay, it's actually hilarious that you bring that up because I was about to ask a question that I wrote down, which is, would you guys go see robot boxing if it was real?
Obviously.
Yes.
Me too. That'd be
It's
awesome.
so cool. I love robot boxing. But this is not that. What was the robot fighting thing we had in this timeline for a while?
BattleBots.
Yeah, it was BattleBots.
I don't want that BattleBots little boxes with wheels on them. I want humanoid, fully autonomous, jumping around the ring robot boxing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I want it to tear limb from limb, not be like a mouse droid from Star Wars. That doesn't qualify for me.
There's a scene when they're through the junkyard and they're getting Adam for the first time. First of all, there's a Saturn V rocket at that junkyard. Why did the VFX artist throw that in there? What's this timeline where a Saturn V rocket got decommissioned and put to a junkyard in the Midwest? But
I'll tell you exactly what happened. Robot boxing happened and everyone went, well, I can't leave this planet now.
Okay, but second of all, Hugh Jackman talks about the fact that we made him not human because we wanted the spectacle. We wanted this. We didn't want regular boxing. We wanted all the spectacle. And he talks about it like it's this diminution of boxing, it's this corruption of it. And I'm all the time thinking yeah, but they're not people anymore.
Right. So it's actually great.
We made the biggest possible step when we stopped punching each other and started making robots that don't feel pain punch each other.
I do love that he talks about that it's a super dark turn that the world took. Dude, you have to know that there was a different possibility where they just chose not to include robots in the making it more brutal.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the people wanted destruction. Yeah, because they're robots. We wouldn't crave destruction if they were humans.
Have you seen UFC?
Or if we did, that would be the thing to have a problem with.
Throwing that out there.
I mean,
Am I
I
wrong?
mean, we are in the
This is
darkest
where-
timeline.
Maybe they weren't. Maybe this isn't a different timeline we're in. Maybe they were just off by several years.
Robot boxing has yet to really get the foothold that this movie had predicted it would.
Super disappointing. Incredibly disappointing.
This brings me to my next point, which contains a fact about this movie, which is that it was executive produced by Steven Spielberg.
Great.
And the reason I bring that up now is because of that scene where Max is sliding down the dirt because he fell and he slips down the dirt and he gets saved by the robot's hand sticking out of the dirt.
Uh-huh.
And I am so convinced that Steven Spielberg only signed on as executive producer if one scene had a kid serendipitously escaping death.
I don't disagree with that. That was a very Spielbergian scene.
Like, I'm not stepping on unless a kid miraculously brushes with death and survives. Like, that is the only case that I'm signing on to this film.
I'd love to touch on that moment real quick because the way that it's cut in the movie, the only assumption that I can make, and I backed it up repeatedly to make sure that I was right about this, the only assumption that I can make is that robot's arm went directly up Max's asshole. Like, directly in and up. That is the only way that the science works. Because then there's a close-up shot of his face being all surprised. It fits perfectly. Like, I dare you to watch that scene again and tell me that I'm wrong about the way that that
I will never
looks.
watch that scene again, specifically.
Yeah, Preston's gonna his finger is hovering over the fast forward button, and as soon as that kid
Just give
slips,
him
he's
15
like,
seconds.
"Gone."
That's all you need. I've made a discovery.
Tell us about your discovery.
Let me tell you. Just if I may have the floor for a moment, Council. This is 100% a Pacific Rim prequel, without question. This is absolutely a Pacific Rim prequel because this takes place in 2020. Pacific Rim is in 2025. Now, I have a little map of how the development goes.
Oh, sweet.
Absolutely
I
no
love
chance that they developed all the robot tech after the kaiju attack in Pacific Rim. It had to be a variation on already existent tech. I think we can all agree on that. So
Yes,
what's
we can.
better than hand-controlled robots? Voice-controlled robots. This movie proves that. What's better than voice-controlled robots? Neural link robots.
So it's like just the next step.
This is a prequel to Pacific Rim, and I will not hear
Well,
otherwise.
and you know what it was? Is some general was trying to figure out what to do about the kaiju, and then remembered back when he was a kid, watching
saw-
a bull
he saw Real
fighting
Steel,
a
the
robot,
movie.
and he said, "Boom!
Oh,
there's the
it's
solution."
Perfect. No, not he, she. It's one of the little girls.
It's one of the little girls. She still has her robot leg. She brought it home.
Yeah, but she lost her leg in the war, so now she uses it as a leg.
She has one robot leg. She is 8
One
feet tall.
Giant leg.
You know, I know that theory is true. I am sure of it because when you said that out loud, it all made, like, I realized I had been assuming that this whole time.
Oh yeah,
Well,
for
and
sure.
You know what's funny is when we were talking about earlier how we wanted to see like the rise of Adam. I was thinking, like, the only thing that would have made this movie a thing that would have made this movie better is if we had a Pacific Rim style intro, like introducing, robot boxing, narrated by Hugh Jackman.
The next thing that happens in the movie is Max takes Adam on a run, and then he has Adam like pick him up, and they have so many counter close-up of the robots that I wrote, I wonder if the boy is going to kiss the robot. Because the imagery is really there for a solid 10 or 12 seconds.
You just got to change the music, and it's a romantic comedy.
I hate that so much.
I do think if we're going to talk about the actual movie, I do think that one of the things that makes this work on some level is the blend of animatronics and CGI. Because there's definitely moments where he's like looking at the robot just directly in the face, and if that was just a big CGI robot, nothing would have worked in that moment.
That's like, to me, that's like the most frustrating part of this movie is that everything except the script was executed like technically flawlessly. Like
super, super great. Yeah.
Like the cinematography, it's like more colorful and more engaging than most modern blockbusters. The action is excellent. The framing is great. Like, it looks really, really sharp. It was like just like really well made. The CGI is excellent, and the script is just terrible. There's no like.
Yeah, it's just awful.
It's just this awful script, and so like if you watch it with mute on, you'd be like, "This is a great movie," and then you hear them talk, you hear lines like, what's her face? Daughter of the father-daughter Zeus team. What do you have to say about this?
I also, yeah, it's just not good. I do, Lincoln. I appreciate that you've taken, the charge to just really torture us with a movie where I tortured you with the futility of the experience of watching Q the Winged Serpent. You tortured us with the potential for what this could have been.
It really could have been good. Like if it had just had a round of polishing on the script. Like they could have shown it to one other guy. One other person could have given them enough to make this movie from a great idea completely bogged down by a script to a movie with a pretty good script and a really great execution.
And a series of descending in quality sequels. I completely agree.
Yes, perfect.
Here's one thing. I'm really curious about
Here it goes.
Hey.
Thanks for prefacing for us.
See, this is we're gonna get in the weeds here for just a second. I want to know.
Just to clarify, were we out of the weeds up to this point?
Yeah, we were just taking a really high level look at this movie until now.
No, I'm really curious, what the rules are, as far as these robots, because one of them has there's twins. The one that has the two heads, right?
Sure.
You could make an argument that that's an advantage or a disadvantage, all day long.
Right.
And then there's the one robot.
Hold on, we're in the weeds. Let's talk about it. Is that an advantage at this point?
Well, yeah, because you could have two redundant. If the rule is the control has to be in the head, then you can have two redundant controls in the head.
Okay.
But it's a disadvantage because now you have a larger target.
Right, and also your robot looks dumb as shit.
Yeah.
Is another problem.
Also, the fact that they took the word city really literally in the Twin City name. He kind of looks like a city as well as a twin.
and then there's the one robot that has a literal hammer for a hand.
No, I think you can't talk about that because that's not regulation. That's
okay.
Street robot
fair.
boxing.
But still.
There's no way that robot would have been allowed into competition.
Okay, but Lincoln, would that robot then fight? Would the owner of that robot accept a challenge from a robot with two hammer arms?
Right, exactly. And Zeus has the piston in the forearm for extra punching.
Oh yeah. That's a good point.
Where do they draw the line here? You know what I'm saying?
And does it have to be controlled in the same way? Could it be? Can you at one point you just have an actual boxer fighting just some nerds?
Right.
That seems like who's gonna win that.
Yeah, obviously they don't care about the control method. I think it must be it's got to vaguely look like a human, and that's all our only rules.
That's the only rule, is it has to be humanoid.
Right, but then because why wouldn't you just not give your robot a head? Because then it's
because that wouldn't
less
look human.
of a target, and then you don't have all of
terrifying. I love it. Call it the Headless Horseman. We're building some fiction. All right, let's go.
He's holding his head in his hands on it's a pumpkin, and he has it on one of his arms.
Yes, he can throw it at people.
And it can retrieve it. It's like a combo move it can do.
Yes.
Preston, I do want to acknowledge, just so you know that I caught this, is I said, I bet the rule is it has to look human. And you said, yeah, but how would that stop them from not including a head on this robot?
I mean, okay, so maybe that's the rule. But then why wouldn't you just make an empty head and put all of the important
stuff
stuff
it has to look human.
in right, so just make it's just a fake head.
Well, I think that's
just a paper mache.
Right, exactly. It's a sacrificial thing. Don't put any of the important stuff in the head.
Thing.
I think there's so many weird things of isn't it just if you had a robot that was Adam, but you just took every surface that he has and spent money and made it a better material, you'd have a way better robot that, and the only difference is how much money you spent on it.
Right.
Counter argument, if you took all that money and just put 100,000 knives into his chest, all pointing outward, and he does a move that he calls the bear hug.
So I love this future where it's just go wild about robots, because I would love to see a robot with two buzzsaws on each hand, or a set of 4 buzzsaws that it can punch with at the same time. Like
That's
that would be
incredibly
so cool. And it doesn't
What
have
do
a
you
head
call him?
either.
What is his name?
Buzzsaw Louie.
Okay, so one of us is in charge of naming them, and
It's
not
not
Lincoln.
Lincoln.
But I like that idea.
Oh, you don't want to call him Buzzsaw Louie?
No, I would call him perhaps Bloodsaw, or maybe
So
maybe-
Bloodsaw Louie?
no, not Bloodsaw Louis.
There's no Louis. No Louis.
No Louis
No,
involved.
No. Just no.
Somewhere in the series of fights, there's a moment where the kid shouts, "I told you I hate hamburgers," and Hugh Jackman goes 100% feral on the rapper and says, "It's a burrito."
I was remembering that. Also, where is he getting these generic unmarked bags of food to give
I
to
don't
his
know.
son?
Do you feel that if this franchise had taken off, do you feel that it would have crossed over with Fast and Furious at this point? Or
What's okay? Real Steel, Fast and Furious. How are those connected? What happens in?
I can
okay,
definitely
please,
tell you.
Please elaborate.
Okay, so
Okay, wait. Let's set the scene. We are in the good timeline. Real Steel
Right, of
did
course.
amazing. It got one round of script polishing, which brought it from like a 4 or 5 movie to like a 8 or 9 movie.
Right, and at the 10th movie, before the 10th movie, there's a spin-off, and it's called, and I'm very excited about this, The Fast and the Real and the Furious and the Steel.
Steel.
And there's a sequel to it called Too Real, Too Fast, Too Furious, Too Steel. And so here's my pitch. Dominic Toretto has been doing too much spy work, okay? And so he decides, I'm too good at being a spy, and also I might have 6 kids at this point, so I'm gonna retire from being a spy and driving cars through windows and shit. So he goes, he retires, and he's presented with an offer somewhere in Cuba to run just this, what I can only assume would be some sort of Christian and or Catholic themed robot that would fight in part of his family that would fight other robots. Okay? And so this robot, he and his 6 sons that all look exactly like him and wear matching wife beaters, they all come together and they all learn to pilot this robot together to face whatever villain is currently happening. Actually, you know what? Scratch that. They face Hugh Jackman and the now 28-year-old whatever that kid's name was.
Max.
Max, thank you.
Okay.
And so they have to face them, and by the time they're done facing them, they realize you guys are also family, so they have a Corona together, and then they realize that what they really need to be fighting is who gives a shit? Let's say Jack Black, and
And he's Bowser.
He's running around. He's not Bowser. We're not bringing another franchise into this, except we are right at the end. But hold on.
Wait.
He's running
I
around.
think I know which one it is.
I think you probably do. And if you'd like to guess, we'll have a moment for that. He's running around, Jack Black is. He's doing a bad thing to the family. And so they all come together and they fight him. And then they win. And then Lincoln guesses.
Okay, well, I think we shouldn't wait for this crossover till the end because the bridge between robots fighting and cars going fast already exists and it's Transformers.
Yeah, there it is. It's Transformers.
I think pre this movie you're talking about, the fate of the Real and the Fast and the Furious and the Steel should wait until we get across a Transformers bridge.
Okay, so which franchise would you suggest connects with that more?
Well, we start with Real Steel, and we have Bumblebee enters the Real Steel fighting competition as a sentient
piloted
robot.
by Haley Steinfeld.
No, pilot. He's himself. Haley Steinfeld is like pretending to be his pilot, but he's
Haley
just
Steinfeld and John Cena, because John Cena is also in the Fast and Furious movies.
and they're pretending to be the pilot team, but really it's just Bumblebee, and he's just kicking all kinds of ass and taking all kinds of names because he's like a transformer, and clearly he's definitely more powerful than all those robots.
Yeah, because he's a space alien.
And then they get recruited because they like rise up the ranks. So they win the championship and they get called to a room, and it's the government who tells the Fast and Furious people to go where they're supposed to go, and they're like, "You're in," and they tell them that they have a mission that involves cars, and they're like, "Okay, we'll go get a car," but it's just Bumblebee again, and so then
Very
they have a
good.
car.
I'm gonna take
And then
this
that's where we meet Dominic.
a different direction. Not do
Okay.
Fast and the Furious, but
I'm actually hurt by
in the
that, but
same
okay.
way that Fast and the Furious, it's like the first three are like actually about like street racing and cars, and then it just gradually gets more and more. Where you start with
Yeah.
Real Steel, right? There's Real Steel for like 2 or 3 movies, and then slowly, they get asked more and more to help with spy work and such, culminating
Okay.
with Pacific Rim, where suddenly there's alien kaiju, and now they have to go fight
Okay.
those. That's
Okay.
my time.
I like that. Can I put a little something at the end of
Certainly.
that? Okay, right at the end, because we're obviously ignoring the Pacific Rim sequel, because we right at the. Oh, you have a hot take about Pacific Rim 2?
It's not great, but I don't think it's.
Okay, you know what? Great. So we'll keep Pacific Rim 2 in
Thank
there.
you. That's
okay?
all I
So
wanted.
then-
It's not great,
we'll-
but it's
we'll
worthy
make
of. I don't think it should be not included.
Great. Okay, so we'll make Pacific Steel, and it's a third in the Pacific Rim trilogy, and a whatever 9th in the Real Steel. Okay, and so at the end of that movie, who cares what happens in the movie? But at the end of that movie, everything, all the technology has to fall because it's gotten too powerful, right? And so then, and this is where I'm excited about it. Dominic Toretto rolls up and steals a DVD player from the back of a truck, and that's right, it's the beginning of the Fast and Furious franchise.
So they burn it all down and turn the clock
Yeah.
back to like
That's
2005?
2001.
2001?
2001, yeah, exactly.
So they went through like a Butlerian jihad and eliminated all the
Yeah.
advanced technology.
It's perfect. It's the ideal.
Okay, that's great. And then do we just go through the Fast and Furious movies as normal, but just with this added knowledge that
Right, that it's just the rise of the machines again.
that all these robots and cars used to be sentient and they are no longer sentient?
Correct, yeah. As God's Eye and all the dumb like big electromagnets and all that they start putting into the franchise, the more that happens, the more you're like, oh, it's
What
all
is
gonna
real?
end one day.
And then we get to the final Fast and Furious movie where the robots have once again grown too powerful, and so we send them to live on their own planet.
Okay.
And so then they develop a civilization there way faster than they could have on Earth. But they've left behind some remnants because we didn't get them all gone. So some remnants like a pair of small glasses and a giant cube and a whole robot. And then boom, beginning of the Transformers franchise.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, that's very good. We're gonna incorporate Michael Bay's Transformers into this. I love that.
Yeah. And so then we get like Sam Witwicky, and he's like he was born after the first jihad, and so he doesn't remember
Right.
the
Famed
time when
future man
robots fought.
Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah.
That makes sense. The man of tomorrow.
He doesn't remember a time when the robots were alive,
Right.
and so that everyone it's all very new to him.
I love that.
Okay, I think we've come to the realization that nothing we say is going to be funnier than Too Fast, Too Real, Too Furious, Too Steel.
I don't want you to close it out quite yet because I did notice a tiny thing watching this movie, and it's important to me.
Okay,
So,
go ahead and tell us.
Again, you brought this upon yourself.
I
You
did,
chose
did.
this movie. So the last final battle, right? Sponsors that I noticed. Number
Bing.
1, Bing. Exactly. Number 2, Del Taco. Very important to me. And then number 3 is the Xbox 720, which I found out because I, again, did a lot of research. This is a fictional futuristic Xbox that a lot of people thought was real exclusively because of this movie.
Really?
And I think that is tremendous.
Also, while we're talking about that, it's so wholesome to see all these logos that were unchanged since 2010. Like, oh yeah, 10 years from now, Bing is going to have exactly the same marketing as they do right now.
Bing is the cosmic consistent. It is always the same. Bing will never die.
And then my third to last note says, this movie almost hits its stride.
For sure. You're not wrong. It's definitely at its best when it's trying to be like a big fun robots punching each other, and at its very worst when it tries to be like a story or a movie or anything that means
When it tries to be a story is when this story really fails. Well, I think we really delved into the depths. I think you two were both sufficiently tortured and punished by making making to watch real story.
I don't know if I was tortured though, because I love this movie.
Oh, it's a
like
great
I had
movie.
a
I
very
did enjoy
difficult
it.
time like finding bad things to like, beyond the obvious ones. Like
I think well, it's bad in a really like fundamental way, and not bad in like a bunch of specific ways that are funny.
exactly.
That's exactly what it is. It's just like flawed. It's a broken movie, but it's still a great time. Like at no point did I find myself not wanting to watch it. It just I didn't always want to pay very close attention to it.
I gotta say, I was glad I was taking notes while watching it. I think it made it a lot more fun.
Preston, do you have a movie for us? Do you know what you're going to torture us with? Oh, he's still working. Okay,
He's still working.
We can still
Okay,
talk about it.
let's
Friends.
keep
We can chat for a
riffing.
while.
Let's keep riffing.
Do we want
No,
to
we'll
see
stay
it.
recording for this end little bit? Okay.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Perfect.
Yes.
Well, we want to hear what movie you have. We're probably gonna cut
Yeah.
out everything before that.
We'll see though, because this could be fun.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how funny we are when we just are given open space with no.
That's a good point. We've never actually listened back to one of our non-movie conversations.
If you had to design a robot from the ground up, and you had Zeus level budgeting and Zeus level like engineering abilities,
Yeah.
what kind of robot would you want? Like, what would you want your robot's whole deal to be?
I'm pretty into the Headless Horseman thing we were talking about.
I think that is very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and he'd have like a whole Victorian thing going on.
He's got like a overcoat. Is that what you're saying? He's got
but
like a
made
coat
of
with tails
metal.
on it,
Like a bunch of frills and an overcoat made of metal. Oh, it'd be sweet.
and like he's got like a pilgrim collar.
Sure, actually, absolutely, yes, but not so high that it could be mistaken for a head. It's really important to me that it is not mistaken for a head. I think I'd like to amend it just a little bit and say that there's some sort of electromagnet in his neck that can just sort of summon the head back.
Is it a pumpkin?
Yeah, of course it's a pumpkin.
Okay, cool. What's his name?
But Headless Horseman.
That's not cool enough. That's not 2010 stank enough.
Okay, you want some stank? I'll give you some stank. Hold on. I mean, I got nothing. I don't know.
How about just horseman?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Preston is still working on Googling.
Oh, I've got a movie. I got a movie.
Furious. Oh,
well, feel
man,
free
okay.
to chime in.
What did you think? Hey, just so I'm clear, did you think we were like, no, don't interrupt us. This is too good.
This is so good. This is podcast gold.
This is quality content. We gotta wait.
Preston, we are treading water. We are drowning.
We are barely treading water. We are just kind of reaching up, trying to hope that someone reaches their hand down and grabs
We
us.
are both kicking furiously while also dragging the other one down, waiting for you to give us your life raft of this movie idea.
All right. So my movie for you guys for next week is Triple X from 2002.
Yes. Oh, Preston, my boy. My beautiful boy. I'm so proud. This is perfect.
Thank you.
I couldn't be more excited about this.
For so many reasons.
Okay, do you have any like pregame for us? Do you have any assignment we need to do before
Any
we watch
homework?
Triple X?
Ooh. Write down as many like late 90s, early 2000s action movie tropes as you can.
Oh, good.
And then check them off the
Okay, that's-
list as you watch this movie. Like make a bingo card. Make a
Oh.
bingo card. Late 90s, early 2000s action movie tropes. Make a bingo card. And we'll compare.
Very good. I'm unironically excited about this.
Okay, first one, girl fight. Well, thank you for listening to Twinkie Talk, brought to you by the Evening Brothers. We'll see you next time. I am Brother Lincoln.
Brother John.
Brother Preston. I'm so sorry. I
Easy to
cannot
get through
say
that without
I cannot
laughing
say
once.
that with a straight face.